Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start our video with a story in which our OP faced villains from the HOA who tried to take his money, but in the end, our OP won. It's certainly not winning the war, but he won this battle. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. I fought the HOA, and I won. I own a condo in a small building. There are 2 apartments in the basement, 6 on the first floor, including mine, and 4 on the top floor. A few months ago, I came home from vacation to find a substantial leak in my ceiling. It wasn't exactly pouring out, but it was dripping enough that I needed to put a couple of buckets underneath. I went to the apartment upstairs and talked to the guy who lives there, and neither one of us could figure out what might be causing it. There was no obvious issue that we could find. It was fairly late at night on a Sunday, so the next morning I called my condo association to let them know what was going on. They sent a maintenance guy over who came into my apartment to see where the leak was, then went upstairs to check the other apartment. He pretty quickly came back and said that the issue was either a loose connection or a broken pipe behind the wall where it connects to the shower head in the apartment upstairs. It seemed as though the water had been pooling for some time before it came through my ceiling, and the ceiling and inside the wall were both pretty wet. They were able to cut off the water to that pipe and stop the dripping, and the owner upstairs got a plumber over to fix it. I filed an insurance claim for the damage to my ceiling and wall, and I figured that was the end of dealing with my HOA. However, I was wrong. A couple weeks later, I received a bill for $140 for plumbing repairs from my association. To me, this didn't make any sense, since there were no repairs done to my apartment, and the association didn't even make the repairs to the apartment where the actual issue was. It was a private company. I was told by my association that since I'd called and the issue was determined to be not in a common area, I was responsible for paying. They hadn't even charged the owner of the unit where the issue actually was. They told me that once the maintenance guy entered my apartment, it would mean I was charged unless it was determined to be an issue in the common area. This resulted in several weeks of emails back and forth, ultimately with me refusing to pay the bill until they showed me the bylaws where I would be charged for this, and also informing them that their bylaws, in fact, say that something like this is covered by common charges, i.e. our monthly fee. They eventually stopped responding to me, and I looked at my statement today to see the charge has finally been taken off my account. I know it's not a ton of money, but it's nice to be vindicated a bit on something like this. When an HOA board gives up and goes silent, victory has been achieved. Congrats. And our second story. Entitled mom demands bank to refund entitled kid's savings account. So, saw a post that reminded me of this story. I used to work at a bank as a teller at a family-owned bank. While I hated the job because it was boring as heck, I loved my coworkers and bosses. Heck, I even had them come to my wedding years after I quit. So at this bank, you can have a savings account for your child. While their name is on the account, the parent would be the signer, and only signers on the account can make withdrawals. However, at 16, they can be made a signer on the account and have full access to the funds. Obviously, many parents don't do this right away because trusting a teenager with money isn't always the best idea. Paul is branch manager. So the story starts with entitled mom, EM, and entitled kid, EK, come in to make a deposit into EK's account. EK received $20K as part of an inheritance. I processed this and there were no issues with having to place a hold on it due to bank policy. EM also wanted to see a banker to make some adjustments to the account. The branch manager, Paul, was on duty, and who is one of the nicest people I have the pleasure of knowing, jumped in to help. Paul: Hi there, I'm Paul. How can I help you today? EM: Yes, I want to add EK on as a signer onto his savings account. Paul: Sure, we can do that. First, let me review the account with you. There's a limit of 2 withdrawals a month since it's a savings account. Any addition withdrawals incur a fee of $50 for each withdrawal. EM: That's fine. We won't be using the money in there anyway. Paul: Okay, great. And you understand by making them a signer, EK has full access to the account and will no longer require your signature to make withdrawals. EM: It's his account, so it's his money. Paul: Great, let's get this taken care of for you. They add EK on as a signer and they leave. A few days later, the check clears and no problems are had. Then it begins. EK starts making withdrawals, a couple times a week, sometimes twice a day, hundreds to a couple thousand at a time. New sports car, expensive rims, designer clothes, this, that, and the other thing. Now, EK is completely in their right to do what they want since EK is a signer on the account, but when we try to remind them about the fees they're really racking them up, EK just dismisses us and demands their money. It takes a little over a month before the account is empty. EK tries to make another large withdrawal, but we deny it due to insufficient funds. EK starts to yell, stating he has over $20K in there and he wanted his money. After informing them that they've been making multiple withdrawals several times a week, and between those and fees, EK has under $100 left. EK's face goes white and they quickly leave. Then she returns. EM is swearing and slamming things the moment she enters the bank, making a beeline towards me, eyes filled with Karen. Paul intercepts her and tries to calm her down. She goes on about how the bank stole EK's money and wants whoever's responsible fired. Pointing at me. I bet it was that B word. He's always here and he deposited the check, so he knew about the money. I want him arrested. Paul: Miss EM, OP did not take a penny of EK's money. EK's been making multiple withdrawals weekly and in large amounts. EM: I don't believe you. EK says that he's only used the money he makes from his job as a caddy at Expensive Club Golf Course. Paul then shows EM the transactions, all being in EK's writing and signature. She still denies it, saying EK couldn't make a withdrawal since they required her signature, so they had to be forgeries. Paul reminded EM that she made him a signer on the account and pulled out the paper that she signed along with EK, granting him access to the account. After a long tangent of cussing and yelling, she sets her gaze back to me. EM: This is your fault. Why would you let a 16-year-old take all this money? EK isn't responsible enough to know. I should have been notified, and you never should have given him anything. This is the bank's responsibility, and you need to refund the money now because EK needs to pay it for his college tuition. Good luck with that. I was at a loss for words. While I had years of experience, including management experience in restaurants, I never encountered someone like this. But once again, Paul just steps in and takes control of the situation. Paul: Miss EM, you could have checked the account at any time. It's not our responsibility to parent EK, nor is it up to us to tell EK how to spend their money. There's nothing we can do, and if you can't calm down, I need to ask you to leave. EM stands up to try to talk down to him, but he just stands with her. Now, I should mention that Paul's about 6'10", and while not a hefty dude, he is big, but always has a friendly look on his face like one of those giant stuffed teddy bears. Paul, in a friendly tone, with a smile on his face: Please allow me to show you to the door. He escorts her out, all the while saying she's gonna sue us and get her lawyer, blah, blah, blah. He walks back up to me. Me: What the hell was that? Paul: I told her what he'd have access to and tried to warn her that EK could do what they wanted. But oh well. Paul just went back to the banker's desk and went back to work. Me still standing there in a state of WTF. Nothing came of anything, of course, other than EM treating me like crap whenever she saw me and then closing her accounts. EK still banked there, but kept using their savings as a checking and racked up fees. That wasn't my business. And our last story. Okay, this is one juicy, albeit semi-long one, but first, some background info. I'm 55, male, autistic Asperger's, and suffer with Tourette's when hyperexcited or stressed out. I own a graphic design operation and have a gorgeous Downs teenager in the front of the shop, which I adore and treat like a daughter. The front of the shop is a little too tight for my power chair, which is why I always use the rear entrance. Now to the story. So I showed up a little late for an interview with a prospective manager, and as I pulled into the disabled area outside the shop, a woman came up to me demanding why I was parked in the disabled bay, as clearly I wasn't disabled. So I pulled out the blue badge and put it in the window and ignored her silly rant. It's fake, obviously. It's a fake. I'm reporting you to the police. Fine, go ahead. I'll wait here. And I smiled sweetly to her. Soon enough, the police arrived and asked what the commotion was about. Karen told them I was blatantly disregarding the laws and parking in the disabled bay. I asked the nice officer if I could exit my vehicle and explain. I pressed the button on my console and the boot popped open. Then I began to drive my power chair out the back and down the ramp. Karen's jaw dropped so far she almost had to retrieve it from the pavement. Anything else? The nice officer asked the Karen before walking away. So now the juicy bit starts. I drive my chair around the corner and into the rear of the shop, per usual, and set up, ready for the interview, leaving a red-faced Karen sputtering red-faced with the officer. Soon after I settle down, I hear the shop door open and a customer arrived. I can hear Janet welcome the person with the usual greeting. Hello and welcome to shop name. Please feel free to look around if you need anything. Feel free to ask and I'll endeavor to be of service. Not another effing one was screeched. You should all be aborted and less of a burden on this country. Obviously, Janet was taken aback and sputtered out in, excuse me? You're all the effing same. No brain and all drain. I'm here for the interview, and the first thing I'm going to do is fire your useless butt and get someone competent instead. Now, go and get your boss, as some jerk muffin caused me to be late. By then, I'd heard enough and called out to Janet to show the person through. I could hear her barge past and arrive at my office. The look on her face when the jerk muffin, as she so eloquently spoke of, was the interviewer, smiling sweetly enough to give her a cavity, I waited until the color finished draining out of her before letting her know how I felt about her. Hello, Miss or Mrs. Please take a seat. I hear you have a great resume and are exceptional at managing a business and customer service. Now, please tell me, who the F do you think you are coming over all high and mighty? Yes, I did hear you berating Janet and telling her she was going to be replaced as soon as you get hired. Well done, genius. You win first prize, which is absolutely effing nothing. Now get out. And if I see you in here again, I will not be able to restrain myself. But, no effing buts. Get out, or you'll be arrested for trespassing. I think she broke the land speed record exiting my establishment. Oh well, maybe the next applicant will sue. Edit. You are not going to believe this, but believe it or not, there's more to come. So I just got back to my establishment from our local supermarket, still crying with fury and laughter at what just happened. I took Janet to get her food with mine, so I closed up the shop when we went to get food for us. And who do you think we see at the store? Yep, it was Karen. Now, I'm not someone who's known to hold a grudge for long, so I smiled sweetly in her direction and waved. She went paler than my sheets and hurried off. Well, it was her loss at the end of the day. A few minutes later, while we were at the deli counter, lo and behold, security arrived with Karen in tow. There they are, pointing to us. They're the ones who verbally assaulted me, and I demand that they're escorted out and banished from here. Now the security guard looks at me and Janet in bewilderment and asks what happened. Before I can explain, Karen butts in with the old, I already told you routine. Get the manager here now. I demand you give me a huge discount for the stress you and these people are doing to me. Well, I nodded slightly to him and said, please do. After about 8 minutes or so, the manager arrived and looked at me and Janet. Before he could say anything, I said that this lady had a complaint regarding us and your retail outlet. Well, cue Karen's dirge and oh woe is me lecture about how me and Janet's disgraceful behavior towards her was so upsetting that she had to go get security to escort us from the premises. The manager looked at her with a look of, what are you smoking? Well, shall we look at the CCTV footage and take it from there? Janet couldn't help herself anymore and says, hi, Daddy. The second time this week, Karen needs to retrieve her chin from the floor, sputters something almost intelligible, and storms off. Don't come back now, you hear? Manager called after her. I can't wait for an episode 3 if there is one. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.